Hi everyone. So this is 5 steady steps towards a healthy mindset. I'm so excited about this one because this is, if you're going to have a breakthrough or you're going to have like an epiphany moment or like really have those creative juices flowing as to how you can help yourself and work on your mindset, then this is the one. So I cannot wait to get started. So what we're going to do is, if you've been to some of my workshops before, any of my 5 steady steps workshops with Frolo, then we're going to follow the same format. So what you're going to want to do before you get started is get yourself a nice drink, tea, coffee, water, squash, whatever you fancy. Get yourself comfy and definitely get yourself a notebook and a pen or a pencil, whatever you're cool with. If you're more technologically advanced, then grab your phone. You can make notes on your phone. You can also make notes on your computer. And feel free to take screenshots if that's going to help you. The other benefit is obviously this is recorded, so you can go back at any time, work through what we've talked about, and practice some of the techniques and the tools that I'm going to be sharing with you. Now, it's also worth mentioning that not all of the tools and techniques and self-coaching models that I share with you in this workshop are going to be right for you. It's trial and error about finding the things that suit your situation and help you work towards the mindset or the outcome or the ideal situation in terms of how your thought processes are, how you feel, all of that kind of thing, as to which ones are going to be best for you and work best for you. And you'll only know that with trying them. So anything you try, give it a good, week, 2 weeks, really commit to the process and see how you go. I'm going to give you some ideas about how to reflect on this process and reflect on your experiences so that you've got some way of comparing and contrasting and some way of plotting progress, so to speak. So I'm going to just bring up my PowerPoint, so just bear with me. Okay, hopefully you can all see that and it's coming across. So, like I said, 5 steady steps towards a healthy mindset. I'll just give you a few minutes to grab anything you might need. So this is me. This photo was taken pre-lockdown, pre-COVID. So I still hopefully look the same. But yeah, this is me all smiley before the pandemic, before things started changing. But all of this information is still present and correct. So I work as a coach, as a life coach. I trained for 2 years, really committed to my training. I actually won an award for my academic achievement whilst I was studying to become a coach. And it's not something I took on lightly. I really found a great training provider and I really committed to the process. It's almost like doing another master's. I had a 10,000 word dissertation to do as part of it. So I do really know my stuff. And as part of that, I also did my advanced NLP practitioner training. And this is neuro-linguistic programming. So this is really sort of reading your body language, reading between the lines, understanding from what you're saying, what it is you're meaning, and kind of the psychology, kind of really the mindset of what is going on for you and how you're applying that to your behaviors. So it's really understanding your subjective experience and how that plots into you taking certain actions or following certain cycles of behavior, etc. And I really love this, so much so that I'm now doing my master's in the psychology of mental health and well-being. So I'm really honing those skills and taking it to the next level. And it's absolutely fascinating. It's hard work, but I'm loving it. Apart from my academic side and my work and what I do day to day, supporting parents with self-acceptance, self-awareness, self-confidence, I am a solo mum. I have been for about 9 years now, and it's been a really enlightening experience. It's been really hard at times, but it's also been how I've being able to experience some of the things that I now coach on. So I can come from a place of not only experience, but also expertise. And I think when you join those things together, it's a really supportive environment for people. And I'm also a macaroni and cheese addict. I don't know why I put that in there, but I want you to get an idea of kind of who I am and what I'm like. You might get an idea that I'm into kind of artwork. I'm a little bit of a vintage girl, so I like my vintage stuff. And I'm a complete geek as well. Like, I love video games, you know, Marvel, comics. We go to board game cafes. Like, that's the kind of people we are. We're pretty down to earth, you know, just your regular macaroni and cheese geeks over in this house. So I just wanted to give you an idea of kind of who you're talking to and who I am. And you may see me around Frolo in the chats, hosting some other events as well. So please come along and say hi. I'm very approachable, very friendly. So let's get started. So when you think about mindset, and when somebody says having a healthy mindset, and some of the things that will support you in having a healthy mindset, most people kind of think around, make sure you get a good diet, you're being active, you know, exercise has been proven to really help with mental health and mindset, that you get good quality sleep, it's not disturbed. I know that is difficult as a solo parent or a co-parent sometimes. And taking care of your health, you know, making sure you're going to those appointments, that self-care aspect, that you are checking in with yourself and your health on all aspects. And these are the things that are vital to a healthy mindset. But I know that you know these things. These are things that you are aware of. They are kind of in that ether of your brain. You're like, you must do these things. So I'm not an expert in diet. I'm not an expert in sleep or physical health. You know, I am not a doctor. So these are not things that I have expertise on that I can share with you. So I'm going to talk about things that I am an expert in, that I know can help you with the inner workings of your mindset. And it might help to sort of know what mindset is, because it is a buzzword and lots of people use it and they will use it in different ways. So it's really just the established set of attitudes, thoughts that you hold about different things. So your mindset is not necessarily one thing. You could have a different mindset for different things, and it is created by your experiences. So it is shaped by how you have interacted with the world, both, you know, when you were younger and now. It is continually changing. It's a malleable, influenceable thing. And that's great, because it means we can influence it. If it's created by experience, then you can recreate it by experience. And I'm going to give you the tools to start shaping that and crafting it in a way that is going to help you achieve the type of mindset that you're looking for, that you need, that you want, that's going to help you achieve your goals and create success for you. And we're going to talk about fixed mindset and growth mindset. Carol Dweck, who's a psychologist, is kind of like at the forefront of mindset work, and was. If you are at all interested, this is her book. You know, you can shop around for it, borrow it from the library, but it's a really interesting read about the concepts of fixed and growth mindset. Fixed mindset being the attitude that it is what it is. You know, you can only work with what you know, and it's never going to change. You know, you might see this kind of fixed mindset in some of your limiting beliefs or some of your belief patterns. And that is really when you have this this idea that you only have a certain amount of something and you can't make it any different. You can't change it in any way or influence it in any way. Whereas a growth mindset is the attitude that you can acquire new knowledge and acquire new skills and influence your mindset and shape it in a way that reflects that experience. So you don't necessarily think you can be perfect or an expert in something, but you can definitely change it and work at it. And like I said, mindset can be different for different things. Now, I thought it might be helpful, and I know I talk really fast, so this is why it's great that it's recorded, because you can go back and rewind me and play the bits again. I know I give you lots of information. I don't expect anyone to like take it all on board. It's just cherry picking what is relevant to you, and you'll know, because you'll get that feeling and something will spark and you'll be like, okay, that makes sense to me. That follows for me. And that's great. So I hope some of you are getting some of those moments. So I thought it'd be helpful to share with you Maslow's hierarchy of needs. This is very old in terms of psychological progress at the moment about how we think about needs, but it's relevant in terms of mindsets, where it has lots of flaws in terms of psychology. But if you take the lens of mindset right now and think about what it is to have a healthy mindset and achieving a set of attitudes that work for you, that support you in your own steps towards success, whatever that might look like. That involves many, many things. It involves knowing your values. It involves knowing your needs, understanding what resources that you have available to you, what even your goals are, what it is you're working towards, right? And so people think that with mindset work and mindset practices, that the goal is self-actualization. So the goal of the top of this pyramid, self-actualization, which is knowing yourself in depth, like having resilience, being comfortable, feeling grounded, having the resources and tools kind of at your fingertips. And in fact, Maslow's definition of self-actualization, I'm just going to read it for you because that's the best way. He says, it may be loosely described as the full use and exploitation of talents, capabilities, potentialities, etc. Such people seem to be fulfilling themselves and to be doing the best that they are capable of doing. They are people who have developed or are developing to the full stature of which they are capable. It kind of reads like a school report, right? This is where you get A in effort and A in attainment. That's self-actualization. So it's as much about what you put in as to what you get out, but it's recognizing your abilities and then using them to the full potential. And I think often what happens is people see self-actualization as the goal, especially when they're engaging with any coaching or counseling work. This is what they think is, or feel that they're heading towards, or sometimes what they're even suggested they're heading towards. But often the foundations are skipped. So often these lower levels of your pyramid are kind of left out, and you go, straight for the top of the mountain without really giving yourself all of the tools you need to get there. And this can be based on these things. So if we take it as a lens as to mindset, right at the bottom you have physiological needs. So these, in the typical sense, would be food, sleep, water, nourishment. You need things to keep your human physical body going. If you take this as the lens of mindset, again, we need to have the nourishment to be able to have a healthy mind. We need to feed our minds with material and information that's going to support us getting towards using our full capability and experiencing that. So this is going to be, the type of conversations you engage with, the type of people that you talk to and how you talk to them. It's going to be about what you read and the resources you give, but also physiological needs as well. We can't have a healthy mindset if we don't give it the building blocks that it needs to work with. And then the next level up, safety. You need to feel safe within your own mindset to be able to move to the next level. So if you struggle with fear of failure, or having an inner critic kind of running the show, or even fear of success, or maybe you don't trust your own thoughts, or you often enter into thought spirals, you don't always then feel safe within your own mindset, and can't really reach the upper levels if we're not in a place where we feel safe within our own mindset. And then love and belongingness. So with the mindset, this is about having love for yourself, having respect for yourself, appreciation for yourself, feeling comfortable in your own skin, feeling that belongingness, so feeling like you are at home within yourself. And again, that feeds into the safety. And self-esteem, being able to appreciate and respect yourself in a way that is not falsified, that is genuine, that you feel that admiration towards yourself for what you have achieved and what you're going to achieve. And this is a really hard level to get to feel success in, but it's really important. Now, these things don't necessarily go in order, and this is one of the shortcomings of the hierarchy of needs. You know, it might be that you're working on esteem at the same time working on feeling safe within your mindset, or you might be working on getting your diet right at the same time as working on self-love. They are not mutually exclusive, there's a crossover, and it's not a step-by-step. But I wanted to share this with you because I think it helps spark some of that, those light bulbs that might help you think, actually, that's where I might need to do some mindset work, or I haven't quite figured this one out yet, or my self-awareness, you know, needs some work. Take some of these tools today to start thinking and playing around with that. It's an exploration at the end of the day. It is not about perfection, about, you know, making it absolutely step by step to reach the pinnacle. It is about cherry picking, trial and error, exploration, curiosity, and not judgment. So we're going to, if you, like I said, been to my other workshops, work on 5 study steps. Now, these technically could go in order, but again, take your bookends of taking stock and reflection, they're fixed. The 3 in the middle, it might be that some work for you, some don't. You may not do them in order, so don't take this as prescriptive. I also want to mention that this, when we're talking about mindset, we are talking about creating steps towards a healthy mindset. We're not saying that this, I'm not saying this is going to make everything exactly how you want it, or that it's all these steps are the right steps for you, because they could be great for you, or there could be other tools that I don't talk about that are going to be better for you. So, you know, take what you need from this, but don't take it as prescriptive. And also on that note, if you really struggle with your mindset, you know, if you are finding that actually you have very low periods, or you struggle with you know, anxiety a lot, or anything that I say feels triggering to you, I want you to, first off, if it is triggering for you, just making sure you have the tools and the techniques available to you right now, before I go any further, that will help ground you. So if, for example, you use the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method, or, you know, 5 things you can see, or things that you can hear, etc. Or if you just ground yourself in physical things, so knowing that there's a point in your home that you can look at that will ground you back into the present moment, use that, or any other technique that you've been taught by a professional that works for you. And likewise, if there is things that come up today that you're like, I really think I need to talk to somebody about that, there's, you know, immediate places you can go, like Shout or Mind or Samaritans, to talk to, and of course talk to your doctor, because this is not therapy. I don't report that this is therapy. This is just talking about tools that could help you towards shaping or changing your mindset. And I think it's really important that that difference is made, and that you know where the support is coming from. So that said, let's get into it. I'm really excited. So the first is taking stock. So this is your base camp. So if we were looking at our hierarchy of needs, and we're at the bottom of that pyramid, at the bottom of the mountain, we're at base camp right now. And we need to figure out from here what we're working with. So when it comes to mindset, we can't really measure mindset because there's too many variables. There's too many individual differences involved. But what we can do is kind of take stock of where you are right now and do it in a way that is exploratory. And the best way to do that is to ask yourself some questions and to almost start that conversation with your own mind as to where you are right now. So I wanted to put these questions down. So feel free now to take a screenshot if that's best for you, or write them down. I found with my clients, one of the best ways of understanding where they are and meeting them where they are right now is to ask questions, is to really get under the skin as to what's happening. And the reason this is great is because it helps you, like I said, to start that conversation, to understand for yourself where you are. It builds self-awareness. And that is really useful. And what you'll find is when we go to the other end, when we do our reflection, we can come back to these questions and compare and see progress. So depending on how you like to understand yourself or how you like to work, you may like to journal on these things. So write them down and write the answers. You could just think on them. You could just have this open and think on them if that's how you feel you're going to work with your mind best. You could do voice notes to yourself and answer the questions that way. You could talk to a friend and ask each other the questions. How you go through this is entirely up to you and how you learn best. Now, if I was doing this one-on-one with somebody, we would find the best way to learn. So for now, I just want to share the questions with you and give you an idea of kind of what they're asking. So, am I happy with my attitudes towards my lifestyle, relationships, myself, choices? So these are some of the things that make up the experiences that make up your mindset. So are you content with your attitudes towards these things? Are you content with how you interact with these different things? And it can be a yes, no answer, or it can just be food for thought. It might be that you come up with some things that you have recently done or experienced that make you think that you're not content with it. Or it might be that you're like, do you know what, I'm really content towards my attitude towards my relationships. And so, being a parent, your relationship with your parents, your relationships with your friends, romantic relationships, dating. You might be really, really comfortable. You've got good self-esteem, self-belief, self-confidence, resilience in those areas. But in terms of your lifestyle or your career, it might be different. And so reflecting on the differences between different areas of your life is really important, and your mindset towards them. Does my inner critic run the show? And if so, how often? So your inner critic is that voice in your head that isn't necessarily helpful, that's kind of critical of you, of your choices, of your behaviors, of what you think. And it can be really difficult to break that. So just reflecting on and asking yourself a question whether that is something that happens for you, whether you do have this kind of inner voice that's being critical of your choices and your actions and your thoughts, and just how often. And again, if this is a question that is triggering for you, then skip it out. What would I like to change about my mindset? This is where you can get really creative and, enlist some visualization. Like, how would you like your mindset to be? How would you like to approach conversations and challenges and new opportunities? Or, if something disappointing happens, or I don't know, you might be planning a holiday. And usually your mindset feels quite fearful of that because there's lots of things that go wrong, and the cost, and you're not really sure where to go, and the amount of time it's going to take to plan, etc. That might be examples of a fixed mindset, whereas you might want to be a bit more expansive and excited about it and creative about solutions. So think about scenarios and how you might like to change your mindset. Get creative and get excited about it. This isn't about judgment, it's about just exploring what that could look like or feel like. And again, this is an extension of that. What ways would I like to grow or change my mindset? Sorry about the typo on that. And again, this is an extension of the question before. And how will I know that I've changed my mindset? So how will you know that you've got a little bit closer to feeling how you'd like to feel? Or how would you know that you've got closer to having a set of ideals or attitudes that match where you want to be? So how will you know that? Is it going to be in how you interact with your children or child? Is it about how you interact with dating or meeting new people, or how you approach work challenges? How will you know that your mindset has changed? So there are some questions that you can ask that will help you take stock, that will give you this kind of base camp scenario. And it might be that there's other questions that you have that you can add to this. Particularly when you start journaling, it can be a bit of a stream of consciousness, and it can spark other questions, other ideas, and things that you want to explore. So second is to ring fence your time. And if you're not on the list, you're not getting in. I share often with my clients that diarising, so putting in your diary time that is for you to do this kind of mindset work, whether that's reading a book or implementing some of the tools that I'm going to share with you, or going for a walk, or putting in place an organisation that's actually going to take the mental load off and therefore supports this growth mindset. Any of those things, you need to put that in your diary. You need to make sure that time is ring fenced, because if you say, oh yeah, I'll do that, it's always a tomorrow thing. And you know what? Tomorrow never comes. So put that in your diary. And I wanted to share with you just 4 ways that you can start shaping your mindset and building in self-awareness. This takes repetition. This does take practice. It's not an overnight thing. And I know that you're probably looking at those and thinking, I already know that stuff. Like, it's obvious. Everyone that talks about mindset says the same thing. If you've worked with somebody, they've suggested these things as well. And I can even feel the eye rolling coming in my direction. But I want to share these with you because they're really important, because they do help to kind of calm that overwhelm and help you, like I said, shape the type of mindset that you are hoping for. And you'll know what that is because you will have answered the questions when you took stock. So if you're really being honest with yourself and just kind of close your eyes and think on this, when did you last put aside time daily or even weekly that is for you, that allows you space for your mind to breathe, where you're not working on a to-do list or the next thing, or you're thinking about what the next thing you're supposed to do is? So when was the last time you did that? And if you did it, is it a regular thing, or was it I took a spa weekend, which actually sounds amazing, but when was it that you last just put time aside? Chances are a lot of you don't do that. You don't put it in your diary, just steal time as and when you can. And I'm really asking you now to make it a priority. And we're going to start small. I'm not saying it's like an hour a day, as lovely as that would be. This is about really being intentional about what it is you're doing with that time and when that's going to be. So I also wanted to share with you another thing, because I think this is going to hit home for some of you. When you go to bed and you get comfy, you're lying down, you're all cozy, how many of you find that your mind starts racing, that you start thinking about all the things that you've got to do, and then it's almost like this virtual mind map in your brain of jumping from one thing to the next thing, and you can't stop it. It's like your mind is just on a mine cart and it is just going. The reason that is because it's one of the only times or few times in a day where you actually stop, where you physically stop doing all the things you've got to do, when you're not doing things for the kids, for work, you stop and you're like, must sleep, must stop thinking. And of course, it just makes you think more. If you put time aside each day, if you could, even if it was 5 minutes, to allow that quiet time and to practice allowing thoughts to come and go, and to practice not attaching yourself to them or judging them, I bet you would probably find that your mind doesn't race quite so much. So this is why these tools are so important in shaping your mindset and helping you, and that's why I wanted to share them with you. The first one is meditation and mindfulness. And yes, I know you are thinking, that's obvious, I've done it and I don't like it, or I've tried it and it didn't work for me. Often what I find, especially when I first start working with people, is that they say they've tried it, but what they've done is gone straight for like a 10-minute meditation straight off the bat, and they've never done it before. And often you're kind of setting yourself up for failure there, because what happens is you sit down, you try and do the meditation and the mindfulness, you're trying to allow thoughts to come and go, not attach yourself to them, not judge them. And what you find is you can't stop them. Or you think the idea is to stop all the thoughts and to switch off and be calm and be zen. And that isn't it. The whole practice of mindfulness particularly is to practice this allowing of thoughts and feelings and not judging them. It's about taking a step back and a perspective that cultivates this idea of letting go, of resilience. So I invite you to try acting with it. And I invite you to try with just 2 minutes a day. Now, 2 minutes a day is enough to practice this. There is many companies and apps out there that can guide you in this as well. So if this is something completely new to you, then doing guided meditations is really helpful. But it's accessible to everyone, and you don't really need that if you're just starting out. So 2 minutes, set a timer. If you want to, just 2 minutes of getting comfy, closing your eyes. With meditation, you want to be sitting up, not laying down most of the time for most of them, because it's about being awake and practicing that skill. And it's about, like I said, when thoughts come in, just noting. It's called noting when you just call it a thought or a feeling. And 2 minutes, and if you manage 2 minutes a day, build it up to 5 minutes a day. And if you feel that's good and that's really helping you, and that feeling of being free and open and not having this inner critic necessarily feels good, then keep going. But start with me. The next one is journaling. And again, this is not a tool for everyone, and that's why it's great to just try these things and trial and error. There's been many studies that have shown that actually labeling your feelings, so giving your feelings a name, writing out your experiences, takes the emotional weight out of it. It takes away from the mental capacity in your brain. And it also helps in problem solving and in finding solutions for things, because you are able, if you can get it from your brain down, it then engages different processing areas of your brain and therefore helps you with problem solving. So it can also help with reframing. And that's another conversation entirely. I could do a whole other meeting on reframing, but I want to share with you just about the fact that journaling, whether that's stream of consciousness, so just writing whatever's on your mind, getting it down on paper, almost like a complete mental dump, or whether it's a gratitude journaling, so 5 things that you're grateful for that day, and we're going to go into gratitude. It could be bullet journaling. So this is not something I'm hugely familiar with. It's not a technique that I've tried that I've got on with, but bullet journaling is where you record your experiences in bullet point form. So it's not writing prose, it's not writing long lists of information. And for some people who aren't particularly, they don't particularly enjoy writing, bullet journaling could be a better option. So all of these things I'm sharing with you are ideas to lighten your mental load. It's ideas to kind of take the pressure off your brain's cognitive processing, and to try and kind of get you out of this very critical frontal cortex way of thinking, and allowing you a little bit more space to feel a bit more open, to get some clarity on things. And all of these things will help you feel less stressed, more resilient, but are able to kind of process your internal and external world if you have this amount of space and freedom and expansion in your mind. And then in turn, that means we will feel maybe more content, we will maybe feel more grateful, we might sleep better, and we may be able to organize and manage our lives more effectively. And this just helps us feel better. It will help you feel more content in your mindset, and like I say, change it in such a way and mold it in such a way that it's going to support you in the things that you want to do and in how you want to feel. And that's amazing. Like that's huge to be able to do that. And you have the power to do that, because mindset is all about experience. And so we can shape our mindset through changing the experiences. So it's kind of this, brick by brick mentality, that the more we do it, the stronger the foundations are going to get, and then the easier the next levels are going to be. So these are your kind of initial building blocks. And just a word to perfectionists: if you do engage with journaling, it does not need to be perfect. It does not need to look like a calligraphy journal page from Pinterest. And in fact, this is kind of a great practice for perfectionists to do in easing into things not having to be a certain way. So just, if you do struggle with that, just bear that in mind. The next tool I want to share with you is play. We generally, as adults, do things to get a result. We do things because they lead to something else, or we are told to do them, like it's a necessity, or we have to do them. We very rarely, if ever, do things for no purpose whatsoever apart from joy. Very rarely. And often with play as well, we engage in escapism rather than engaging. So I want to share with you this idea of doing something just for fun. Doing something because it leads nowhere, it has no purpose. You're not doing it for your kids, you're not doing it because somebody expects you to. You're doing it because it's something that creates joy in you. And if you're having a hard time attaching into that idea of joy, what I'd really like you to do, invite you to do, is to think about a time that you did feel joy, that those I love my life moments. And it might not be necessarily something that's super recent, but just anchoring into those feelings and remembering how that felt. So where in the body you feel that, how do you know that that is joy? Is it because you were smiling? Is it because you had like butterflies in your stomach, or you felt really energized and you wanted to do more of that thing? You couldn't wait to go back or try it again, or like do more of it. All of those things, like what does joy mean to you? Find that, and then that's what you're looking for when you choose something to engage in. So play is a reprieve from the chaos of our mind, and it challenges us to connect with key parts of ourselves that get lost in the responsibilities of adulthood. So it's a way of letting go and realizing and recognizing that you're a living person. You are not your thoughts, you are not your responsibilities, you are not what others expect you to be. So this is a way of, again, finding that expansion and that creativity within yourself. And do it without sharing it. So this is not something you're going to put on social media for likes or for comments or to get attention or any of those things. You're doing it for no reason. You are just doing it because, like I said, it brings joy. It's also a way of practicing not listening to your inner critic or engaging in guilt. Sometimes if we do something with no purpose, we feel this sense of guilt that we should be doing something else. So it's a way of practicing letting that go. And also not listening to your inner critic saying that it's silly, or you shouldn't do it, because it's probably going to try. Your ego is probably going to get in there somewhere. And then the final tool I wanted to share with you is gratitude. So when gratitude practice was when I first came across it, I thought it meant being grateful for all the things in your life that suck and all of the things in your life that you don't like. Try and be grateful for them. And it felt so contrived and so forced. And I was like, I don't understand how this is going to help me. And as I practiced it and as I engaged with it, I realized that it wasn't about that. It wasn't about, engaging with falsehood and faking it till I made it. It was about celebrating and finding things that made me happy and made me grateful, that were perhaps really small and insignificant, but they were personal to me. So, an example might be in spring, for example, my first tulip came out in the garden, and I was really grateful for that. I was grateful for the feeling it gave me, that it was happy, the fact that the slugs hadn't eaten the bulb, so it had come out in spring. The colours were beautiful and amazing. On a grey day, it really cheered me up. That is how you can exploit your own brain systems. When you have that hit of gratitude, when you have that hit of happiness, you get this dopamine, which is makes you feel good. And when something makes you feel good, you want to do it more. So you can really hack your own systems to help you. So can we really thank ourselves happy? And the answer is yes, we can. And generally, gratitude practices have been shown to improve well-being, increase resilience, and strengthen social relationships. So it can help you with things, experiencing less overwhelm, less burnout, less kind of, like I said, again, this mental load, this pressure. It can alleviate that, even if it's just for a short amount of time. But the more we do it, this is the building blocks we're going to work on towards a healthy mindset. So again, to remind you, put these things in your diary. Make sure you carve out that time, ring fence that time to make sure you are starting with these building blocks and starting with these practices. And soon enough, these things are going to build on each other, and you are going to be amazed how much it supports you in your mindset. So, step 3. This is where you can take a drink and a breather, because I know it's a lot. Okay, so we want to start incorporating self-awareness into any mindset work we do. And self-awareness is your kind of ability to think about thinking, which I know is a bit of a kind of mind twister to get around, but it is taking that step back and seeing how you react, how you think, your patterns, what you do, and starting to build an overall picture of you, and how different things interact with different things in your life. So how your thought patterns influence the behaviors that you take, for example. And the important thing to note about self-awareness is you need to continually engage with it, because we are continually experiencing new and different things, and therefore our self-awareness is going to change. We are not necessarily the same person at 20 that we are at 40, that we are at 70, because our experiences continually change, and therefore we need to continually work on our self-awareness and our understanding of ourselves. We can't expect anybody else to be able to do that. This is an internal thing, not an external thing. And I often see the mistake with self-awareness that people try and find it outside of themselves, and very much as an internal process and an internal experience. So I also find that people will report that they are self-aware. So it's kind of this, I don't know if you've heard the Dunning-Kruger effect, where you overestimate how good you are at something, or how much of an expert you are at something. And this certainly is the case with self-awareness, in that people feel or perceive that they are self-aware. And often those people aren't necessarily self-aware. They haven't really dived beneath the surface, or kind of really unpicked things, mostly because this stuff can be uncomfortable. It can be difficult. But as I put there, growth doesn't have to necessarily be uncomfortable, but discomfort can help you grow. So when you recognize that resistance in yourself, when you recognize that discomfort, it can be a sign to say, okay, maybe this is something that I can work on. And you can work on it in way that can be fun and exploratory and exciting, you know, through play, through meditation, through journaling, you know, socializing your experiences, all that kind of thing. It doesn't have to be uncomfortable, but discomfort can be a flag that can direct your attention to things that you might want to work on. So, like I said, we are continually learning and having new experiences, and we edit that information based on our filters and our experiences. So often, because of that, because we edit all the information that comes in and kind of match it up with what's already there, we can become quite closed in. We can become quite single tracked on some of our thinking. So incorporating self-awareness, trying to expand your thinking of your thinking, so trying to understand yourself better and how you react to things, can expand and stop you maybe just being quite so single visioned on behaviors of your own and others that you experience. Now, self-awareness is a complex thing, and it is not a case of you either have it or you don't. It is a case of working on it. So the way to do this is, as you go through these different tools that I've shared, or tools that you know, or read a book, just think about your own thinking. Like, think about how you are reacting to that information. Does it spark anything in you that you're like, oh, I don't agree with that, or I do agree with that? Why is that? Why do you think that that's not true? Or why do you think it's not applicable to you? Or why is it applicable to you? What kind of things has it sparked in you? And the same with your experiences with other people. And starting to become, taking that step back and looking at maybe some of your beliefs and some of your values and some of the things that maybe you repeatedly say in conversations, or the way that you react to certain things happening, starting to build a picture of those things. So helpfully, and again, screenshot this if it's helpful, I've put together just a few ways that you can cultivate self-awareness. So curiosity over judgment we've talked about. So this is about not attaching to your thoughts or behaviors, or judging them, or saying that they're right or wrong. This isn't an exercise for that. It's about building a picture and curiosity. And it's an adventure, not a chore. Don't look at this as something you have to do. Look at it as something you want to do. And if you ring fence the time, you can spend a bit of time doing this. Write things down as you experience them, as you get light bulbs or thoughts, or, I really want to dive into this part of my mindset, or this part of my experience, or my beliefs. Write it down. Be honest in your reflection and your check-ins. Nobody's checking your work. Self-awareness is, like I said, an internal thing. So be honest. And then all through this, the thread that's kind of joining together is this idea of mindfulness, about stepping back and creating space between your thoughts and your behaviors. And that is a result of self-awareness. And then finally, taking or reflecting from a three-person perspective. So this is the perspective of yourself, the perspective of another person, so a bystander or somebody that may be involved in a conversation you had, for example, if you're reflecting on a conversation you've had recently, and a fly on the wall, so a bystander, somebody completely not related that might take an overview, so like this eagle-eyed view. So that 3P perspective, as we call it in NLP, can be really helpful to you. Sorry, lots of acronyms there. 3P, three-person perspective. NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, which is one of is a coaching modality. So, step 4. Control the controllable. I'm sure you've heard this. It's a great phrase. I wish I came up with it. It's a big topic, and it will be so personal to each of you depending on where your mindset is at the moment. And again, we're just doing surface level, working towards a healthy mindset, and not really diving into the specifics, because that takes more tools, more resources, and a very personalized framework. So this is just giving you some ideas and some tools to work with. So controlling and controllable, I wanted to talk about something that I think is really important in mindset, and that is circles of influence and circles of concern. And I just quickly flashed the book, but it's from this guy, from this book, Stephen Covey, and you've probably heard of it. It's a great book. If you are kind of in a leadership or management role, or perhaps even if you have your own business or you're just a really interested in personal development, I really recommend this book. It's not too difficult to read, it's just quite big. But what I wanted to share from it was, I mean, maybe control is the wrong word because we're kind of looking for, you know, the growth mindset. So openness, fluidity, adaptation. But it helps to understand that we kind of need to stay on our lane and just spend our energy on the things that we have influence over rather than spending energy on things that we don't. Because our energy and our time is a really, really precious resource, particularly as a single parent, solo parent, parallel parenting, co-parenting, whatever your setup. I would hazard a guess that time and energy is one of your most precious resources. So we want to be spending it well. And understanding these circles of influence and concern, which I will share in a moment, is going to stop some of those spinning plates, stop some of the overwhelm that maybe comes with trying to control or influence too many things at the same time, the things that aren't really in our sphere of influence. They're not things that we actually can have a hand in changing. Yet, a lot of us will spend quite a fair amount of time trying. So I wanted to share this with you. So on the left is, I mean, they're both the same. On the left is a circle of concern, and the circle of influence is bigger. So when we are in proactive focus, our circle of influence, so the things that we have influence over changing, gets bigger. And the energy here is of positivity, of expansion, of learning, of growing. So it really reflects that kind of growth mindset model. Whereas reactive focus that you see on the right is where we spend a lot of our energy within the circle of concern. So in things that we're you know, that are on our mind, that we want to change, that you know, like I said, worrying to us, or you know, spending a lot of time with the inner critic or the overwhelm, engaging and spending our energy in that means our circle of concern gets bigger, and as a result, the circle of influence gets smaller. Because we only have a finite amount of energy and time. And therefore, if you're spending it all in the areas you can't do anything about, then you don't have enough of that resource left to actually do things that you do have influence over, that you can do. And why this is important is if we increase our circle of concern, if we increase this area that we don't have influence over, we don't have control over changing, it can feed into feelings of helplessness, it can feed into feelings of victimhood or blame or pointing fingers. And we fall into this trap of allowing things we can't control to control us. And that's not a great mindset to be in. You know, it's very insular, it's very small, and it's not going to help you kind of use your experiences and reach this self-actualization. So using your resources to the betterment of yourself. So what we really want to be doing is working on this side, on the proactive focus. So doing things that we can have influence over. And as we do that, our circle of influence is going to get bigger, it's going to feel more expensive. And like I said, a bit more of that growth and learning attitude. So I felt it was really important to share that with you. And like I said, if you want to read a bit more about it, then I would certainly recommend this book. And it works really well with the growth and fixed mindset model of the mind as well. And so going to the other end, we are almost there, guys, almost there. Like I said at the beginning, the steps in the middle that we talked about, you can do those in any order. You know, you can pick and mix with that. but you really want to bookend it with your taking stock and your reflection. So those things are kind of fixed, and that's, you know, quite important. So I want to talk to you about effective reflection, and it really involves these things: praise, encouragement, and next steps, in that order. So you want to be congratulating yourself. You want to be recognizing where you've made progress, how you're feeling, and praising yourself. So this is a little bit like kind of reparenting. You know, how would you praise your children for doing something that they're proud of, or, you know, they've overcome or made progress in? How would you do that? And that's what you want to do to yourself. You want to challenge that inner critic and be praising yourself. And you want to be encouraging yourself to take the next steps. So you want to not be berating yourself or saying, what did I do well? What didn't I do well? You know, that's a very difficult place to be, because you end up berating yourself more than you are encouraging yourself. So then from that, you can decide on your next steps. Now, reflection is an important part of it. And what you can do is reflect back on the questions that we did for taking stock, and having a look at your answers and seeing how maybe your answers to those questions would have changed given some of the work you've done. So it might be that you try some of the techniques, you know, you're in a good practice, and in a couple of weeks you reflect on that, and then you know the next steps, like which ones you maybe want to work on a bit more, or you want to bring in some different ideas that you found from somebody else or somewhere else. That's great. That's how you're going to keep this growth mindset going, and shape your mindset. So these are some of the ways, some of the questions and steps you can take to reflect. So how am I feeling is a good one. We often don't really label our feelings or talk about feelings. Certainly I was not in a position when I was younger to talk about my feelings. So it's great exercise in self-awareness, but also in reflection. So how are you feeling about some of the techniques that you've done? How are you feeling in your mindset? What's going well? What didn't go so well? But I don't want this to be a, I did this well, I didn't do this well, as in it's a fault of your own. This is more reflecting on what tools have you liked that you feel have helped work towards this success mindset, and which tools have you found haven't worked so well for you in terms of your lifestyle and the things that you're working towards right now. Because like I said at the beginning, different tools are going to be useful for different people depending on what it is that they're working towards. So this is not about you. It's not a fault of yours if you didn't get on with something. It's about which ones worked for you, which ones didn't work for you. And then an extension to that, how has that helped you? So how have these different things that you've put in place helped you? Which things have worked best for you and helped you kind of get towards that mindset that you're looking for? And based on the answers to those things, what are the next steps? What are you going to add in? What are you going to take away? And you know, what other ideas might you like to try in helping you create this idea of self-actualization? So, but basically this idea of being able to make full use of your skills, your ideas, your talents, your capabilities, and fulfilling what it is you want to do. So that is really the crux of it. So it's being able to do the best that you can with what you have, but also striving to achieve more in terms of your knowledge, your tools, your ideas, so that you can build on things like self-acceptance, self-belief, self-confidence, your self-awareness, your resilience, you know, working on overwhelm, stopping so much spinning plates going on. So maybe working in an organization, all of these things are going to feed into having and working towards a healthy mindset, but it is an ongoing process. It's not a one and done thing. This is really finding what works for you and constantly nurturing and cultivating that mindset. So reflection is important as well as taking stock. So we're at the end. Pens down. What are the take homes? So what out of all of that, and I know it's a ton of information, what is going to help you most, and what, you know, what are the kind of key points that I just want to share with you at the end? First off, your mindset is made from your experiences, and therefore you're able to change it. We have an amazing thing called neuroplasticity, which means that even when we're old, even past the point that our brains are technically matured, we can keep changing and molding and facilitating the information that we store within our brain, and we do that through experience. And therefore you are able to change your mindset, because our brains are a wonderful thing that allow us to do that. It takes practice and it takes time, because it is about repetition, but it is possible. But you can only know how far you've come if you take stock and then reflect. I can't stress how important it is. Otherwise, you won't necessarily see any change or progress or feel it, because it's such a slow and steady thing that you won't necessarily recognize it unless you have something to reflect back on from the beginning. There are lots of mindsets that are going to support you in working towards the mindset that you want and the goals that you want. Try them out. It's trial and error. There is no perfection here, and it's not about whether you did something right or wrong. It's about figuring out which tools are going to help you achieve the type of thoughts, behaviors, and feelings that for you constitute a healthy mindset. And self-awareness is interwoven into all mindset work. So it's the ability to think about thinking, to step back and take a non-judgmental perspective. And it's vital to growing and understanding yourself better. So getting to grips with this idea of self-awareness and working on that is really, really important to mindset and developing that growth mindset, or whatever it is that you want to achieve. And you can help yourself by controlling the controllable. So using your energy within things that you can influence, so that that area of influence increases, so that you are doing that, spending, like I said, spending that energy and expanding your sphere of influence, and spending less time in the area of concern that you can't do anything about, because that will feed into a kind of low energy mindset and really deplete you in your resources. So by being proactive and really controlling what you can control, it will increase your feelings of self-acceptance, of balance, of calmness, all of those things that most of us kind of want to be in the mindset of. So again, this is just little bite-sized bits of information, and it might spark something in you, and you're like, do you know what, I want to read more about that, or I want to learn more about that. Please pick my brain. Each one of these things that I talked about, I could have done an entire workshop on, but this is about you. Each person that watches this is going to be so personalized as to what is going to resonate with them. So take what you want, do some more research on it, but please message me, email me, ask me questions. I love to support you and I love to help you. And this is where I shine. This is where my expertise is. So please utilize that if you do have any questions. And if you do, this is where you can find me. So this is my website. I'm very active on social media at I am Colleen Emily. You can obviously connect with me on Frolo as well. Ask me questions there. And also from time to time, I offer free 30-minute coaching sessions. This is for you to ask questions, get an idea of what it's like working with a coach or an NLP practitioner like myself, and how I can support you. And most of the time people leave with at least one or two personalized tools or techniques that are going to support them in the next steps. So that is where you can find it. If there are no sessions available, just email me, and I can let you know when I'm next offering the sessions. So that is your 5 steady steps towards a healthy mindset. Like I said, I talk a lot and there is a lot of information, but I really hope that there has been some, light bulb moments and there are some ideas, some things that have really resonated with you that you can take home and start working with and practicing, and seeing where it takes you with your mindset. I'm really, really excited to see how it goes, and I love hearing from people that have tried out these things. So please connect with me and let me know how it goes. And I wish you all a great rest of the day, and I will speak to some of you soon, I'm sure, in another workshop. Bye.